All right, so this video and maybe the next one, we'll go ahead and really just finish up our game, create a win-lose screen, as well as fix up this issue with our slider where you can click on it so that, it's just kind of moving across. Right, so go ahead and select your slider here. Remember we have it under background canvas here. And then actually we have it under quiz, I believe. Yeah, here's our progress bar. Turn off interactable. And now when we press play, you shouldn't be able to click on it. There we go. All right, so we have a couple canvases going in. We have our quiz canvas, which if we take a look at this, it's all of our questions. Then we have our background canvas here, which is really just the imagery in the back. And then we're going to create a new canvas. So I'm just going to go to UI here and then click on canvas. And I'm going to name this one Win Canvas. And I'm just going to drag this into the same general area as these other ones here. So go ahead and hide your background canvas for a second because we're probably going to disable that anyway. And then for our Win Canvas here, I'm going to right click. I'm going to just go to UI and I'm going to create a TextMesh Pro text object. And let's just go ahead and I'm just going to scale up my font a great deal. And then make sure that this is all centered. And then just kind of drag this out in each direction. So if I look here, and then we're going to need a button on the bottom here. So let's center this like this. And we could always adjust the size. And again, if you click on the Win Canvas, or sorry, the text here, and you click in the middle here, you can hold Alt and Shift and you can kind of snap that. And then down here, I'm going to create, and this could be just like Win text. And this is just going to display whatever it is that they did. And I'm going to right click on this and I'm going to go to UI. And I'm just going to add a UI button here. And I'm going to just bring this down here and just kind of scale that width out. I should have kind of did that with the text and then scale this height up. And then just change the text on the button and just say play again. Let's make sure we space that out. I'm so used to camel casing. And then let's just bring that up a lot. And then I'm just going to cycle this whole button down. You could actually just push the down arrow. I think you have to like click in your scene and push the down arrow. Let's try that again. There we go. Yeah, you can push the down or up arrow to kind of move that around. It's something like this, and then let's just move this up. All right, so let's create a new script, a C# script here. So create mono behavior script, and then we're just going to call this end screen. And then we're going to just drag this into our writer application here. And to save time, I'm just going to type out a lot of this code and then explain it after. So for example, here, using this one, I can actually type out TMP Pro because we're going to be using TextMesh Pro. And actually, I can kind of show you, maybe we can duplicate. So here's serialized field here. Let's see, do we have any TextMesh Pro GUI? Yeah, so we can grab this here, this serialized field from our quiz thing, paste it there, and then instead of its score text, we're going to call this final score text. Save that. And then we have this scorekeeper script here that, remember, this is keeping track of our incorrect answers and incrementing it. So let's go back to our end screen here. Let me close out some of these other ones. And this is scorekeeper. And then I'll just start typing scorekeeper. I'm going to get rid of that underscore because we're not really using those. It's fine, our private variables. And then in start, I'm going to pause the video and just type out the find object of type scorekeeper, because what we're going to be doing is looking to grab this guy right here. Now, if you're using Unity 2022, it's just going to be find object of type, and not objects of type, but find object of type. If you're using Unity 6, which is what I have, it's find any object of type scorekeeper, and that'll find any object of type in your scene, and it's going to store that reference inside the scorekeeper here. I can actually show you that really quickly. Let me copy this, paste that in here. And then on our Win Canvas here, I'm just going to grab this end screen script, just drop it on there, and then grab my final score text, which I can kind of just name that here, instead of win text, I can just name that final score text actually. Just so I can kind of remember to drag final score text inside of final score text here. And then, oops, let's get rid of that semicolon. And then for the scorekeeper, if I press play, what you want to check is, does it automatically load inside of there that scorekeeper object, which it does. See how I didn't have to drag it in there? It automatically loaded that for me. And that's what this find any object of type does. It finds it in the scene and it loads it in there. All right, I'm just going to modify this update method so that it doesn't say update and just says show final score. I want to make this public. Don't forget that, otherwise we can't access this from our other scripts like show scorekeeper, for instance. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab this final score text. And this one I'll just write out because we're almost done. Dot text equals, and I'll put this on a new line here. Congrats. And then what you can do is if you do a \n, it'll automatically go to a new line. Let's make sure that these are together. And then you got a score of space and then plus, and then I'll do that on another line as well. Scorekeeper. And if you remember, if we go inside a scorekeeper here, we have a public integer called calculate score that returns what our score is. Remember, whatever the percentage of the correct answer is. So back in end screen, I can do scorekeeper.calculate score and then space plus, and then I'm just going to add a percentage sign at the end so they know that it's a percent. I'm going to hit Control S to save this. So all this does now is we grab the text from here, and then all of this code is just loading this in, right? By grabbing the scorekeeper, which has the scorekeeper text on it, which goes through and calculates the score. All right, so I think I'm just going to make this video a little bit longer and just finish up the game. So we're going to create a game manager, and the game manager is going to control the flow between these different background, quiz canvas, and win canvas here. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started on that. So I'm going to right click in here, and then I'm going to create an empty object, and I'm going to call this game manager. Now, generally what I'll do is I'll select any of these ones which are like a timer, a scorekeeper, and a game manager, and I'll usually create an empty, well, I can hold all three, right click, and I can go to create empty parent, and I'll name this managers. Even though the timer isn't really a manager, we can turn it into a manager just by having it multiple. Well, it's managing one thing, but a game manager manages multiple objects, or you might have a UI manager that manages multiple UIs. Right now, because our game is small enough, I'm going to have my game manager sort of do all of that. I'm going to grab this game manager script. Now, I want you to notice something. When I go inside of my underscore scripts here and I right click and I create a new mono behavior script and I name it game manager and I press enter, what generally happens is it'll change the icon. And I didn't do that this time, but in earlier versions of Unity, what it did is it would change the icon indicating that it knew that this was the game manager. So inside of here, I'm going to grab my game manager script here and just drop it on top of this. And I'm going to grab it and drop it inside of here. Because the game manager is one of the most important aspects of the game. It really just manages the flow of the game. Something else I want to do is I think I'm going to rename this, because our script is called end screen. I'm going to call this end screen canvas instead of win canvas. Because maybe you want to display a lose message later. So this is our end screen canvas. So I'm going to create a reference to both the end screen and the quiz script. So these two here. So what I can do is just grab this class here, quiz, and then just paste that in there and then start typing quiz. And then same thing here, end screen. Just make sure I grab this end screen class here, paste it inside of there, just name it end screen. And then in start, I'm going to do the same thing as before. So I'm going to go into my end screen here, and I'm just going to grab this and then paste it twice. And you probably guessed, I'm going to grab the quiz from the scene. So this is lowercase quiz is going to reference quiz. And then my end screen here is going to reference my end screen. So this is going to grab both my quiz and then my end screen from the scene itself. So let's save that. All right, so I'm going to turn my quiz canvas on. And you'll generally want to leave all of these on. You don't want to set anything inactive when you play your game because oftentimes it'll break and it won't. You'll be like, why isn't anything running? So what you want to do is you always want to set them as active or inactive at the very beginning. So set at the start. So for instance, we have this quiz dot game object. And that's actually our quiz itself, right? Our quiz canvas, right? It has the quiz object on there. And I want to make sure that I set this one as active right off the bat. And I'm going to hit Control D to duplicate this line. And then I want to set my end screen game object, which is this one right here, my end screen canvas, to false. So I'm going to save that. And if I press play in my scene right now, you'll notice like right now, oh, actually another thing is our quiz canvas is set to, oh, our end screen, we can't even see it. So we want to go back to our end screen canvas here. And on the canvas here, we want to set its sort order to something like 4, 5 maybe? What did I send this at? Scale factor 1. Where's the sort order on this guy? Oh, sort order is like 50. Okay, let's make this 1. And then the end screen I want on top. So that could be like 3, which is something. And then the background canvas could be 0. So now when I press play, what you'll notice is it'll turn off my end screen canvas and it'll only show me my quiz canvas here. See that? So we want to make sure those sort orders are correct. All right, so let's do some really quick stuff in our update. So if our quiz dot is complete, and if we go back to quiz, right, if I select this is complete, I hit F12, you can see we have a Boolean here that's checking if it's complete, and that is complete is being called or referenced. If I hit F12 on this, it's showing that it's on quiz on answer selected. If I go down here, it says is complete equals true if our progress. So we've got a lot of logic in there that you should go back and just go through. All I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this if our quiz is complete, and I'm going to set it to false. And then I'm going to set the end game to true. All right, and then the next thing we want to do is if you remember in our end screen, we have this method that's not being called, which is show final score. And that's what's going to display final score inside of our final score text. So if I select this and I hit F12, you could see it takes me, if I hit F12 again, takes me back between each one. So back in our game manager here, I'm going to call end screen.final score. So in here, just start typing end screen and then dot. And this is what's going to display the final score onto our, again, I know I'm kind of being over redundant, but it sort of helps, especially depending on the different programming levels, to display it inside of this text here. So let's save that. So one other thing I want to do is inside of our quiz script here, I'm noticing there's a little issue to when our game starts. And what it is when our game starts, it's loading in as though the first question is immediately false, like that we had already answered it. So what I want to do is set this to true. And all this is doing is indicating that we are currently inside of a question, that we started a question. So this is inside of our quiz script. So just go to the top here and do that. And so what's going to happen is if we go all the way down to our update method, and what's going to happen is we are checking if we've answered already. So this is saying if not answered. So this is going to fail automatically, and so that it won't run that question or won't display the answer right away. And then this one will be true, and everything will work as intended. Another thing I want to do is when we do on answer selected here, what we're doing is we're essentially checking, let's see. Yeah, so what I want to do is I'm going to hit Control X and copy this. And so what this is doing is if our progress bar value is the same as progress bar max value, we automatically set is complete to true. I don't actually want to do that right away when it's unanswered selected. I'm just going to grab that. I'm going to have that checked constantly in update. So I'm just going to place it above this if statement and then after this timer method. So I'm going to save that. And so what this is preventing is it's stopping it from when we're pressing play on our, when we're playing our game or whatever, and we get to our last question, it'll now pause instead of jumping right away to this win screen. It'll actually give us a little bit of time to see the quiz question. Before, it would just jump right away to our congrats screen. And so, that wasn't as prevalent because we have our timer here. Let's see. And our timer is set to show correct answer only to 1 second. So now it'll actually display the whole 3 seconds. So let's make the time to complete. Well, here, I'll just show you. So play. And I'll just go through all of these. Now you can see it displays for 3 seconds. 3 seconds. 3 seconds. And then when we get to our last question, it'll give us time to display the last one instead of just jumping to congrats. Actually, what might be good is we'll check. I'm going to hold Alt and just kind of move it inside of this and hit Control Alt and Enter. Now when our timer loads the next question, we can check if the progress bar value is set to the max value. Actually, that might be a little bit better. So let's save that. What we're going to do is right now this will do this and then it'll run this other stuff. And that's not what we want. We want to just jump out of this loop. So we'll just put return here. Okay, the last change I'm going to make is there's a difference between start and awake. Awake is called when the game objects and all the elements are being loaded into the game. So in order to make our game run a little bit smoother because of the nature of us pulling from scriptable objects, anywhere there's a start method, so like in quiz, for example, we have a start. I'm just going to change all of these to awake. So I'm going to copy that, Control S to save it. My end screen has a start method. And then my game manager, I do have a start method in here. So it's hard to keep track and remember everything. So just kind of go through all of your scripts. What's not open? Test doesn't matter. That's our test script we use for fun. Our timer does not have a start method. Okay, and that's it. So now you have a functioning quiz. You can make your own quiz game or your own tests. You can attach this inside of a bigger project. Where the kid, maybe it's a story, a lesson, it's an educational game where you have a kid running from classroom to classroom and they answer these quiz questions. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll talk to you later.